r/AskReddit. What's the best luck you have ever had in your life? I was a large outdoor concert and some dude walked up, said, "No way, it's you, man." He then hands me my driver's license that I didn't know I lost somehow. Got hit by a speeding car when crossing a road, cracked the windscreen, did a flip, and landed on the pavement nearby. Paramedics were worried I'd broken my neck. Several hours and x-rays later I walked out with nothing but minor bruising on my back. Different angle and I could have easily died. Not getting crushed or drowned in a farm accident. I was 16 and working in the packing house on a blueberry farm. I went out to the fields with a guy to pick up the berries. The truck didn't have a cab, just a windshield. I was sitting on a fuel tank where the passenger seat would normally be. There was a large ditch full of water on the right side of the road. The driver went off the road into the ditch. I went into the water and the truck rolled over and came down on top of me. Somehow, I wasn't pinned or crushed and was able to find my way out. I used up a lifetime's worth of luck in that one incident. About 15 years ago I had to go to Vegas for a work thing. I had no extra money, so I really was not excited about going. Being broke in Vegas is no fun. I was there for 3 nights. First night I decided that I would play in a $50 poker tournament. It would fill up the evening and that way I wouldn't gamble anywhere else. Bam. Took first place for $1,500. Being responsible, I went and put $1,000 in my bank and kept $500 to play with. The next night, I go to a craps table with $200 and I go on for about a 45-minute roll. This was at the Paris, where they have the Firebird, which is a $10 bet that if you hit all 6 points it's 1,000 to 1. I hit that over the course of the 45 minutes, and if you know anything about craps, it becomes exponential as you press your wins. So starting with a typical $10 pass line and $20 odds, and like $12 on a 6 or 8, by the time I finally 7'd out I had $500 on each number and was hitting them over and over, cashed out with $28,000. The final night, I did it again, just went on a 30 minutes run. Hit another fire bet, but since I was up so much I had started at a $25 minimum game, another $18,000. I basically parlayed $50 into $46,000, which was more than my annual pay at the time. That will never happen again. Was in a horrible rollover accident with my family after graduating high school. We were in a Suburban traveling on the freeway when someone fishtailed us and we spun into the median and then started rolling. I somehow slid out of my seatbelt and flew out the passenger window, landing in front of the Suburban. When it got to where I landed, it bounced over me and then continued to roll. Eyewitnesses say that is the only time the Suburban ever left the ground. In the aftermath, myself, my GF at the time, and my sister all needed to be intubated as our ribs had punctured our lungs and we were drowning in our own blood. There happened to be 3 separate unrelated EMTs behind us that all pulled over, had medical equipment in their vehicles, and intubated us until ambulances and staff light showed up. So I'd say the bounce and the random EMTs behind us would be the best luck I've ever had. My car broke down on a 2-lane highway in the middle of the Appalachians, 20 miles from the closest city, and with no cell reception. The first vehicle around the bend was my grandfather, who lived 3 hours away. He had randomly decided to go on a weekend trip to the mountains. From breakdown to being picked up was less than 5 minutes. I lost my phone while we were laying pipe at work. Filled in the trench and then realized I had lost it somewhere in the 60 feet of trench we dug. Left it there overnight, seeing as it was already dark and I couldn't hear it when I called it. Returned the next day with listening equipment. Took an extremely lucky guess on where it was and located it within 30 minutes. Dug 2.5 feet down to find that the only damage was a small crack on my screen protector and a scuff on my OtterBox. Everyone including me had written it off as never to be recovered. 2 hours of my time when I figured it would take me a week to find it. I found a $20 bill at the post office. Since I thought it was my lucky day, I bought a $10 scratch off lotto ticket and won $150. As a young dumb teenager I was free soloing a small mountain without a safety harness. I was about 20 meters 65 feet off the ground when I reached what I thought was the top. Turned out the top was still going upwards, and the surface was smooth as a baby's bottom, with nothing to grab onto. I tried to descend, but got myself stuck. After a few minutes I couldn't hold on any longer. I lost my grip, and I fell. I dropped 5 meters, 16 feet, and by chance 2 tiny trees, growing out from a crack in the mountain face, caught me. And they did so perfectly, one under my arm, and the other right under one of my knees. From there I found my way down again, safe and sound. If it hadn't been for those trees, I could have been seriously injured, or dead, as the ground underneath was littered with pointy rocks. I didn't use my luck to win the lottery, but it saved me from a real bad situation. My mother gave me a very nice necklace. One morning I went to scratch my neck and I didn't feel it. I guess I didn't put the latch on properly, and it fell off. So I got super bummed out, because it was really nice. A few hours later I found it in my shoe. It fell down my shirt, down my pants, with a belt, and into my left shoe, which had been tightly laced. I got hit by a semi-truck while driving 75 miles per hour down the highway, rolled 6 or so times, and landed right side up in the ditch with not so much as a scratch on my fiance's or my friend in the backseat's body. Car was ducked though. Edit. Due to multiple asks, I was driving a 2014 Chevy Sonic. I'm amazed such a tiny car kept me safe through that. I also won around a $1,500 jackpot on a slot machine once. I used to occasionally go to late night casinos with a mate. What was pretty big on gambling and strippers. I don't like strip clubs. I always play a low bet value roulette with a hard limit I set before I go in. Usually 20 to 40 pounds. Nothing went my way, and I was cleaned out before 5 minutes passed, barring one last 50p chip. I put it square on one number, which came in. Then I won again, and again. I don't remember much more, but I do remember walking into the kitchen the next day to find nearly £4,000 on my counterpoint. Most of it still in the foil envelopes the casino gets it supplied in. When I was 12 I was walking through the woods and got hit in the face with an arrow by someone who wasn't paying any attention to where he was firing. While this may not be lucky in itself, it hit the hinge of my jawbone. Half an inch in any direction would have been much more fatal. An inch up would have gone into my brain, and an inch down my throat. I was holding stock in Delta Airlines, DAL, back in the late 90s. I was going to hold it for the long term, but it skyrocketed, and I made so much that I decided to sell my shares. But then it went up even more, and I regretted it. Then I found out that when I tried to sell my shares I actually doubled my investment. Good day. At a fancy charity ball, I bought 5 raffle tickets for $100. I put each ticket in a different bucket for different items. I won the channel purse worth $1,500. Then, I also won the David Yurman diamond bracelet and ring worth $2,000. Same year, I got ticketed and towed for parking in my usual spot at work, because on November 1st the parking rules change for snow. I didn't know that. Cost me all afternoon and $400. That night, my friends and I went to play bingo with the old bidders at the church. I hit the jackpot bingo, which was worth exactly $400. I found $165 voucher in a slot machine in Atlantic City the morning I was leaving. Turned that into $2,500 on roulette table while waiting for my friends. This was a wild string of events that I still can't believe happened. I got a job in the video game testing industry. I got placed on a specific project that happened to have a point of contact that knew my favorite band personally. When the client came to visit, this point of contact mentioned my favorite band and my boss mentioned that I loved them. I was then invited to fly out and hang out with my favorite band. I got a tour of their headquarters and got to spend a bunch of time with them for the weekend. The only thing I had to pay was my flight. It was easily the best weekend of my entire life, and I'm now on a first name basis and VIP list with that band. My trackpad on my MacBook broke. The Apple Store called me a day later saying, after they fixed it, someone knocked my computer off the table and shattered the whole frame, and it can't be fixed. I got a brand new Retina display MacBook for free. Applied for a job that was way out of my league and the pay was more than twice what I was making at the time and included pension, full benefits, all that good stuff. I showed up quite early for the interview and had some time to kill, so I sat in the lobby reading some industry magazines. One article was about the top 10 threats to this industry, which I made a point of reading and soaking in as much as I could. Eventually I get called into the interview, and everything is going okay for the most part. This industry and role are both new to me, and I think it may have shown during the interview as a weak spot point, but then I get asked what do you see as potential issues within our industry/business. I was so excited I almost jumped out of seat and went off in great detail about everything I had just learned. The interviewers were very impressed, and little did they know that had I been asked that exact same question just 30 minutes earlier, I would have had nearly nothing to say. I got the job. Came out of university and I didn't have a job. I was applying for jobs in video editing and media, however I hardly got any interviews. About 4 months of having no job I went to my final interview and said to myself that if I don't nail this one then I'm signing on to a minimum wage job agency. Unfortunately I didn't get it, so the next day I went down and signed on to the job agency. They told me that they have a job in a factory that designed and printed boxes and that I could start tomorrow. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was money in my bank. I was there for a few months and a job came up in their graphics department. I went for it and got it. I've been there for nearly 3 years now, and I've already had a promotion. I've had all in-house training, and I honestly couldn't be happier. I truly believe someone was looking out for me to give me this opportunity. Reddit is gonna hate this, but I put $250 on Trump winning the election. Not when he was actually the Republican candidate, no, about a week after he announced. It was more of a joke between me and a college that we'd bet a decent sum on a super high payout candidate. Either you go buy or you go home. I never expected him to win. Also I'm not American, so I have no valid political opinion of the man. We all know how that turned out. Worked at a retail store for luggage where it was base pay plus commission. The other 2 salespeople were lazy as duck. They made almost no sales, didn't interact with the customers, and basically leaned against the counter sipping coffee and being fake friends with the manager lady. My first week there, I made more commission than they did in an average month. Manager lady was a super bitch. Kept cutting my hours. Said I was making her look bad by making so many sales. Gave me all the shit jobs like taking out the trash every goddamn day because I was the only male and was stronger, she said. Cleaning the bathrooms twice a day, cutting into my sales, reassigning my sales to other people so it looked more even, she said, etc. I lasted 3 months before the fake friends talked enough shit about he is stealing our sales that the manager fired me. 3 months later, I'm working with a company that is flipping houses. We get a call from a landlord about a house they wanted to sell because the tenants weren't paying, and being a landlord was more of a pain in the ass than he thought. When we get there, guess who was the tenant? Yeah, the bitch manager that fired me. I straight bought her house for cash and evicted her. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.